All right. Thanks, Brent. Thanks for everyone for joining us today. My name is Rick Zabrak. I'm the Economic and Workforce Development Director for Fairfield County and the Executive Director for the Fairfield 33 Alliance. And our alliance pulls together economic development entities from across the county, including our chambers of commerce. And just really been excited how we've been able to partner and do some pretty big programs together and trying to help our businesses, because everybody's facing a lot of these same issues. And I know during COVID, while everybody had to adapt to a lot of different things and working from home, and it really exposed a lot of network issues that might be out there, and some definitely some security concerns. So I know I've talked to a lot of businesses that have had some concerns with increased risk, and so this makes perfect sense working with our friends with MEP on this. So really excited about this today, and I know everybody's really busy, so I appreciate you joining us. I'd like to introduce our friends from the Chambers of Commerce, who appreciate, as always, partnering with us to help drive this and bring this out there. So first off, would like to hand it off to Teresa Byers. Teresa.
Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you again for joining us. Thank you, Rick. And thank you to the MEP group and Columbus State for coming to us and offering to put this together for our members. I think this is a great topic and a great opportunity for us to educate on some of the challenges that we're facing. And I don't know that anybody realized how many challenges we were going to face in the cybersecurity world when we sent everybody home to work, and you're working off your home Wi-Fi, and who knows, what can happen. So excited to be a partner with the Fairfield 33 Alliance, and of course the Lancaster Fairfield County Chamber and Travis and his team. And we just continue to put these events together, like Rick said, and work together as partners in our county. And it's just a great opportunity to do so. So welcome to everyone. And I'm going to turn it over to my friend Travis.
Thanks, Teresa and Rick. Good morning, everyone. Thanks for joining us. And, I just echo what Rick and Teresa have already said. The partnership that we have between our chambers of commerce here in Fairfield County and the Fairfield 33 Development Alliance is a solid partnership, and we do appreciate the opportunity to put on programs like this for our members across the county. So thanks for the partnership, and we look forward to more programming. And certainly thanks to MEP Group and Columbus State for reaching out and their willingness to put this on for our members. So thank you.
All right. Thank you, Travis and Teresa. And, this is unique, right? This is, I work with counties across the region, across the state, and we have this great partnership combining all of our cities and chambers and the county together to offer these things. And we're also lucky to have the Manufacturing Extension Partnership right up the street here at Columbus State. It's a great opportunity. While they work specifically with manufacturers, a lot of things like what we're talking about today translates to any business. So while the more intense work that they do might be with manufacturers, at the end of the day, they're here to help, solve business problems, offer business solutions, a lot of which, they might be targeted to manufacturers, but boy, do they affect all of us, right? So Jeff Spain, who has spoke to our group before, is kind of the spearhead of the MEP at Columbus State, and is the one who kind of makes all the things happen with his team up there with Brent and everybody, and been able to work with them on numerous projects over the years. So with that said, I'd like to introduce from MEP, Jeff Spain.
Well, thanks, Rick. I appreciate the introduction, and good morning to everyone, and thanks for spending some of your time with us today. I appreciate having a few moments to share a little bit about the Ohio MEP with you. The Ohio MEP is comprised of 6 regional centers and is part of a national network of MEP centers with a focus on supporting our nation's manufacturing industry. Now, the Manufacturing Extension Partnership, MEP at Columbus State, is a full-service solutions provider for Central Ohio manufacturers. From consulting and product development to education and talent acquisition, we partner with you to grow your manufacturing business. We operate out of three major categories: consulting, training, and talent pipelines. Practically speaking, we provide consulting services, which include Lean, Six Sigma operational efficiency work, supply chain optimization, leadership, supervisory and workforce analysis, and what we'll talk about today, cybersecurity risk assessments. And through a partnership with local Ohio educational facilities, including Columbus State Community College and the Ohio State University, as well as a number of our career and technical centers, we're able to provide training and education for your incumbent employees. Whether they need technical training in robotics, automation, fluid power, electronics, 3D printing, or the ever important soft skills such as communication, leadership, and team interactions, we're here for you. Over the years, our team has cultivated a vast talent network, a pipeline to help you identify, locate, and hire the right talent at the right time. And the MEP is able to offer these services, consulting, training, and talent pipelines, through the use of a proven process. And that process starts with a focused discovery meeting between you, the manufacturer, and the MEP. We follow that by aligning the best subject matter expert with the right people within your company to create a solution. We document that solution in a detailed service proposal. We offer the services, providing project management and guidance each step of the way, and then we evaluate how we did, always looking to ensure that you got the return on investment you were looking for. And as we're so fond of saying, we're with the government, we're here to help. Many of our services are subsidized, allowing us to bring more value to your organization. And our team is constantly on the lookout for grant and funding opportunities to be of further assistance. Now, one such opportunity that came our way was a national emergency grant that allowed us to work more closely with cybersecurity. And with our partners at Maplewood Enterprise, we're offering a number of cybersecurity webinars and cybersecurity audits within our region. As a part of this initiative, today we'll talk a little about cybersecurity and the things that you can do to protect your organization. In a moment, I'll turn things over to our partner, Rob Edwards and Kate McDonald with Maplewood Enterprises. Then at the end of our presentation, I'll be back to ask for your help aligning the funding and assistance available within Ohio to best meet your immediate needs. Now, if you are a manufacturer, we need your help by completing a 10-minute survey of how COVID has affected your business. I'll also talk about the availability of 3 fully funded cybersecurity audits that will be offered to Fairfield County manufacturers and cybersecurity audit resources available outside of the 3 audits and available to really anyone. And with all of that said, Kate and Rob, the floor is yours.
Great, thank you, Jeff. Good morning, everybody. It's a privilege and to be here this morning. We're excited to have the opportunity to partner with the MEP at Columbus State and do these assessments for the Ohio manufacturers. And you know, we've gone through several of these so far. I'm here with Kate McDonald today. She's one of our lead cybersecurity consultants and takes part in a lot of these assessments. And the presentation we're going to go over this morning just kind of scratches the surface on, you know, the depth and breadth of cybersecurity concerns, risk management, risk assessment, compliance concerns that you may have in your manufacturing companies. But we welcome the opportunity to come in and do a deeper dive at your organization and kind of give you a tailored plan of action to kind of move forward and make your environments more secure. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Kate and she'll lead us through the presentation.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming. My name's Kate McDonald, as Rob said, and I am here to talk to you a little bit about how we do our cybersecurity assessments and hopefully get you on board with one of your own. Next slide, please. So you're probably wondering what we're talking about when we talk about a cybersecurity analysis. So no matter how big or small your organization is, you need to understand what your current security approach and posture is and the risks of remaining that way. Once you have that information, you can make informed, deliberate decisions on what to accept as a risk, what needs to be mitigated, and how to go about that. There are 3 objectives in cybersecurity. Confidentiality, making sure that only the people who need to see your data and should be looking at it can see it. Integrity, making sure that data is as you expect and that nobody can alter that maliciously or otherwise. And availability, making sure that everybody who needs that data can get to it when they need it. Now, some attacks on those things are, I'm going to list them here, phishing emails, people trying to steal your confidential company or personal information through trickery and malice. That's the word I was looking for. Cross-site scripting is a way for somebody to come along and use false information to redirect people to bad information, other websites, basically altering your website so that it's not what you expect. And ransomware is a way to encrypt all your data and make it unavailable until you pay a ransom to get the decryption key so that you can get your data back. And usually once you pay, you're on the hook for every time they want some money, they'll come back and do it to you again until you fix whatever caused the problem to begin with. Anything to add, Rob?
No, I think it's important, you know, sometimes with these cybersecurity terms and when we're kind of going through these assessments and working with our clients, there's a lot of jargon sometimes, and we really work to make that information kind of accessible to the manufacturing companies and to the business owners, as well as, you know, if you've ever been through these types of assessments before, sometimes they can feel a little bit like the sky is falling and maybe a little bit punitive, you know, with some of the suggestions. We really try to work closely with the technology or the business partners out there to say, hey, look, here are the risks that we see, and here's what all of that means to you and how it impacts your business objective. And you know, you have an opportunity here to take action, or you have an opportunity to accept the risk. But at least you're informed and you understand what's happening in your environment. And that approach, that kind of common sense, you know, practical approach to implementing good cybersecurity practices has been very successful for us, both with the MEP and external to the MEP. So just wanted to share that with you. So, Kate.
Yeah, and I'm not a big fan of jargon, so I try to break it down into like normal people words. Next slide, please. So the thing about COVID is that it has brought to light some issues where people aren't used to working from home, people aren't used to working remotely. Now we have people being sick and no one to cover their work. So one of the things that we'll talk about is how you're working securely during COVID-19. Are you cross-training your employees to plan in case somebody is out sick so that somebody else can do that job? We'll talk about scams that are COVID themed, especially now that vaccines are available. There's a lot of people out there trying to get your information using that as a lure. We'll talk about safe remote access, such as VPN, cloud instead of on-premises for whatever we can do, and most importantly, multi-factor authentication, where we can add it so that even if somebody does get your password, they can't get into your accounts. And we'll also discuss home office hygiene, things like locking your computer when you walk away from it so your animals or your kids don't accidentally bump something, not parking your laptop where people can see in through a window, that sort of thing. And one of the things that we'll talk about during an analysis will be, do your users get trained on handling sensitive data in your environment, and how often do you do that training?
Yeah, and this is one of those things where sometimes organizations don't even really know or have a good understanding of where their sensitive data is and where their common data is, and you know where that separation is and things like that. And so you know, we've even seen, you know, organizations where everything's kind of on the same file share in the same folder, that kind of stuff. And that's you know, that's okay, right? Because businesses are doing their things, but we can, you know, identify and introduce a different way and maybe a better way of approaching that, and then making sure that the users understand the difference so that they become, your allies in fighting against the bad guys that want to come in and steal your data, as opposed to being potentially, an entry vector. So yeah.
Next slide, please. So one of the things that we will talk about is some basic security practices that are low cost and high impact. There are things that you can do right out of the gate right now just to make things better for yourself. One of those is empowering your employees to think securely, teaching them what phishing is, what it looks like, how to spot phishing attempts, the physical security, like clean desk if they're in the building, making sure that things are put away and locked up when they walk away, screens locked, knowing who's supposed to be in the building and calling out when somebody shouldn't be there or somebody looks new. And always using positive feedback. It's proven time and time again that encouragement works so much better than punishment when you're trying to teach people to be better at security. And we definitely encourage that. The other thing is backups. The easiest way to protect yourself from things like malware and ransomware is just having good backups that can't be reached from the network, taking them offline, making sure that all of your critical data is backed up very regularly, once a day, once an hour if it's necessary, depending on what your business needs are. And then making sure that you can restore those backups. You can run your backups for years, never test them, and then when you finally need them, are they going to work? Well, if you don't know, you can't really rely on that. So we will talk about your backup process. Do you have one? What do you back up? What do you cover? Have you tested them? That sort of thing. And we have found in multiple cases, Rob and I have actually worked together in a place where backups have saved us from ransomware so many times because we just laugh, detach whatever the problem was from the network, restore it, and move on with our lives. And we don't really lose anything. And it's been a really good thing.
Yeah, so the way ransomware kind of works at a high level is you'll have a user that receives an email. That's usually how it comes in. They'll receive an email, and that email, it's called phishing, right? Where it's an organization that's pretending to be someone other than who they are. And they're very good at these. These emails can look like they're coming from your bank, from your Netflix account, from your boss even. These emails come in and they say, hey, I need this right away. Click here. Or they say something that's going to spur the user onto action. Your account's been locked out. We need you to, provide your password. We need you to do something, and we need you to do it right away. And so a user will click on that link, and it introduces the malware into the network. And then what it does is it starts going out and encrypting all of the files on that are linked to any mapped drive that the user has on their system. So their C drive, their D drive, if they have a drive on the network, all of those things will start being encrypted. And the only way that you can, and it'll keep going and going and going until it can't find any unencrypted files. And so if you have a backup of those files that are out on the file share, and you encourage your employees to put their data on those file shares, what will happen is instead of having to pay the bad guy to get the decryption key, you can just, like Kate says, kill the encryption file and then restore from your most recent backup. And so it became, I don't want to make light of it, but it became comical because we were so good at fighting back against these ransomware attacks because our backup system was so well implemented that it was kind of like, well, we got hit again. All right, you guys know what to do, right? And then we were able to within 30 minutes be back to a restore point from an hour before the hit, and we could get everybody back to work. So, and then of course go and talk to the user who clicked on the link and let them know, hey, this is the phishing email. Be on the lookout for this. Let's not do that again. So that backups sometimes aren't considered part of, like, you wouldn't think of those as being like a cybersecurity thing, virus, antivirus software or a firewall or something like that. But those backups can really be a powerful tool in protecting the availability and the integrity of your data. So it's a really important thing that we can share with your teams as well.
Next slide, please. So we'll start out with examining your processes. We'll talk about, are you using best practices in your environment? Shared accounts, are you only using them where necessary, and are you protecting those passwords? Leveraging the cloud for things that you don't need to run on premises. Lots of people are moving their mail service to the cloud for Office 365 or Google G Suite or something like that, just so that they don't have to manage that infrastructure and the spam filtering and everything else that goes along with running your own mail server. Are you using effective monitoring and alerting in your environment? Do you have monitoring running, and are your alerts useful and valid and not just noise? And then another big one that we see, especially in the last few years, is that everybody has a cell phone, everybody has a mobile device, and they want to bring it to work. Are you letting people hook up willy-nilly to your network, or are you putting them on a guest network and making sure that their devices can't interfere with your corporate network? There are lots of best practices we'll talk about in an analysis. Those are just a few. And we'll definitely ask you if you have alerting and reporting. Is there a procedure around that? Is it being followed? There's a lot we will talk about in regards to the processes.
Yeah, and 2 points on that. I can't see everybody, but sometimes if we were in a room, I'd say show of hands, who's a little bit scared of the cloud, right? And probably a few hands would
Used
go
to
up.
be me.
Yeah, and probably 5 to 10 years ago, Kate and I were kind of in that same mindset. Probably closer to 8 years ago, maybe 5. But
Not 5.
but we were probably in that because with the cloud, it becomes a situation where you're giving up control of the management of your infrastructure to a third party, and you have to accept that that third party is going to maintain your infrastructure as well or better than you could do on your own. And those of us that are very strong technologists, find it hard to accept that somebody else is going to do as good of a job as we would. So we kind of, shied away from it. Well, that's not the case anymore. The offerings you guys may have heard, AWS, Amazon Web Services, or Microsoft Azure, which is their version of the cloud, Office 365, G Suite, and then a slew of software as a service based applications have become available, and they are very secure. They are very well managed. They have a very high uptime, and it's something that if it makes sense for you to do it financially for your business, it's an entire set of tasks, workloads, and concerns from both an operations and a cybersecurity standpoint that you don't have to worry about. And so as we go through these assessments, we'll work with your organizations and your IT teams to say, what applications do you have that are inherently vulnerable, right? Email is a good one. Kate mentioned it a minute ago. And recently there was an attack against Exchange. And so email is a good one. Is it feasible to move that into the cloud? And what's that look like if we did that? Just to, kind of check a box and take that off our plate to move on to other things. So the cloud is a good thing. It certainly needs to, if you have any requirements such as ISO 27001, SOC 1, SOC 2, PCI, HIPAA, if your organizations are required to maintain compliance with any of those standards, FedRAMP even, certainly we would want to make sure that workload that we're thinking about putting in the cloud meets that compliance requirement. But if it does, there's a lot of things to be scared of, but the cloud isn't one. anymore. So as long as we do our due diligence and kind of look into those types of things, it's a good thing, and we can kind of help with that. And then just to add on to the effective alert monitoring and alerting, one of the questions that we ask is, have you had a security breach? And a lot of times, organizations will say, no, we haven't. And the next question is, well, how do you know? Right. And if you don't have effective alerting and monitoring, how do you know that you're not breached right now? Right. So those are the types of things that we try to help organizations understand, and just give lend some of our expertise as in the form of, consulting and recommendations to try to make sure that right? So you can choose whatever you want to do with your organization, of course, but at least the risk that you're accepting, and kind of the state of where you're at. So that effective monitoring and alerting is a very important part of that, and certainly something that we discuss during the assessments.
Next slide, please. We'll also talk about your tools. Everybody who runs a business has the email, the file share, that type of thing, office equipment, office tools. But in manufacturing, we have kind of a unique thing with industrial control systems, and it has been shown, especially recently, that these things are very vulnerable to becoming a way to attack an environment, and especially a way to bring down even large businesses like some local, very large company that had some issues last year. Nobody is immune to this sort of thing. So the things that we recommend, we'll talk about air gapping things that don't need to be on the network. And if you can't air gap something, we'll also talk about keeping all of your ICS devices on their own network and not touching your corporate network. Virus and malware scanning, are you protecting things that you load on that? Are you checking your files first before you load them onto an ICS? Are you letting people surf the internet from a controller PC? That sort of thing needs to be examined. And is your vendor supplying security updates? If they're not, and your device isn't older than you might want to ask them why they're not sending you stuff. There's a lot of things in manufacturing that do run for decades upon decades, and they run great, and we're not going to replace them just because we can't get patches for them, but we'll talk about air gapping and that sort of thing for those things. But if you have something that a vendor is supplying patches for, are you applying those patches in a timely manner? We'll talk about vulnerability management programs. Are you patching your office equipment? Are you patching your servers? Are you considering your ICS devices in that process?
Yeah, and a lot of times, especially in the manufacturing world, you'll have these old servers. So, servers or operating systems, if end of life or end of service, if you haven't heard those terms before, what they mean is the vendor is no longer providing patching for those. So as security vulnerabilities are discovered, we all get that, hey, Windows is updating your operating system, and you stand by, and it counts up, 10, 15, 50%, it's done, and then you're patched, right? Well, operating system server OSs they'll just stop patching them after a certain period of time. And so that system, once it hits that time period, it is extremely vulnerable. So any vulnerabilities or threats that are discovered by the manufacturer from that point forward will not be mitigated with patching. And so it doesn't mean that you can't have that server or that OS in your environment, because I always tell the story of we did some work for a company that does compressors, that makes compressors, and those compressors needed to be tested, and the system that had the program on there that tested the compressors, testing the compressors hadn't changed in, so many years. And so that system just sat back there and ran the tests on these compressors, and collected the data, and it was fine. So it's not that these OSs can't or shouldn't be in the environment if there's a valid business case. It's just that we need to protect against them in a different way, since they're not going to be patched by the manufacturer anymore. And so the air gap approach means there's something in between that device and the internet, and there's no connection there. So, we'll kind of work through and discover with you, what instances you have that are like that. Does it make more sense to upgrade to a supported OS if you have that, or does it make more sense to, put an air gap strategy in place? So these are all things, again, we try to take kind of a common sense approach to it to make sure that, the recommendations that we are making based on our assessment are in alignment with something that's possible based on your business. So.
Thanks, Rob. Next slide, please. So to wrap all this up, cybersecurity is a holistic thing. It's not just one aspect of your business. It's your people. Do your people know what they're supposed to be doing to keep your company data safe? Do they know how to do it? Do they have the processes for that? And do they have the resources to do that thing while they're doing their jobs? An analysis will help you understand where you're doing a great job and where you could improve things. We're never going to tell you you suck because that's not helpful, but we will definitely point out, like, you are doing a great job with this thing and you could do this part better to make things safer for you and your company's data. We'll recommend those things, especially where you can get the best cost benefit analysis. We'll talk about things that are cheap and easy to implement, maybe cheap but not so easy, and then there may be things that are longer term solutions that will need to be considered. And last thing I want to point out, that this isn't for big companies, this isn't for medium companies, this is for everybody. If you are a startup with 2 people and you just went into business last month, that's the greatest time to start thinking about this. And then ongoing, you never have to worry about implementing things down the road. It's also, if you are a company that's been in business forever, it's never too late to implement changes that make your business more secure. So we like to integrate all of these best practices into our daily lives and hopefully make things just better for everybody in a not so painful kind of way.
Yep, and with that, that kind of wraps up the prepared presentation. And I will say this: we kind of talked about it earlier. User training is very important. There's kind of this old adage in the security practice, in the security profession, that says the best laid security plans can be undone by one untrained user, right? And so, whether that be they let somebody have unauthorized physical access to the environment by letting them piggyback in through a door that they shouldn't have, or whether they click on a link that they shouldn't, or just simply don't handle the information well, or don't understand where your sensitive information is. Those are all factors. So we definitely emphasize the user training piece of it, and can assist and help get everybody up to speed from that point of view. But like Kate said, cybersecurity really is best implemented when it's an integration with your regular business practices. When it's not something you have to think about, it's just something that's part of your normal process, it becomes far more effective. And hopefully we can help you in your organization, come up with some new ideas and deploy some new strategies, and protect your business from these threats and these disruptions. So With that, I guess I'll ask, are there any questions? Did anything come? I don't see anything in the chat. Does anybody have any questions for us?
I would say there was one question that typically does come up. If there is not a security framework already established at a company and there is a ransomware attack, what would you say the average downtime for that company is?
Depends how much money they have.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, if they are able to pay the ransom and get the decryption key and do that, they could be back up, potentially very quickly. But the problem is they are now a target, and they are a target that's been executed against successfully. So you're going to pay that ransom. You're going to pay the ransom. We can bring your files back, but then give it a week and you're going to get hit again. And they're going to ask for another ransom and another one until you get it fixed.
Yeah, that kind of starts the clock on making sure that you're implementing changes that will prevent another one from happening. And it's a very high pressure clock. It's not fun.
Yeah.
It looks like we do have
over the summer, Garmin. I'm a runner, and Garmin was hit by a ransomware attack, and that's when it really hit home for me because I couldn't upload my runs to the cloud and let everyone know. And if I couldn't upload it, how did I even run? I mean, did it even matter? So these things get personal really, really quickly. Guys, I think that was some fantastic information and definitely helpful. I know as Brent Maurer and I are out talking with manufacturers throughout our 12-county region, cybersecurity is something that comes up daily, that people are generally concerned. If you're a large automotive manufacturer, in Marysville, Ohio, completely taken off the line because of ransomware, or you're a smaller shop. We've got friends in Cincinnati that their manufacturing facility was completely brought down, and they thought they were too small ever to be that anyone would target them. As we just heard, everyone's a potential target. So I appreciate all the information you brought to the table. I would like to, I promised everyone I'd come back and talk about an opportunity that we have available through that national emergency grant that the U.S. Department of Commerce funded for us. I will say, sadly, it is only for manufacturers. So as Rick said in the beginning, this is information that's good for everyone and helps everyone out. This particular grant was very specific NAICS codes that they were going after within manufacturing. But what it allows us to do, if you're a manufacturer, we are able to fund a certain number of these cybersecurity assessments. And these are in depth. As we heard from Kate, they're spending days going through data, going through information, really helping you out. But we are able to, we've set aside 3 for your county that we are able to fully fund. So we're going to go pretty straightforward on a first come, first served basis for manufacturers. We've already had one manufacturer on the call that very in a great way reached out and asked. So we've given one away already. We think we're gonna help out. But for the other manufacturers, let us know. Either give Brent a call, give Rick a call, give me a call, and we'll be able to help you out to find out if you qualify for it. Those are some great resources available. From the rest of the team, Rick, any closing words on your end from the Economic Development and Workforce of Fairfield County offices? I'm gonna.
It appears to me that maybe,
yeah.
It appears to me that maybe Rick had to pop off the meeting, but I think we just really appreciate the partnership today. And speaking for Rick, I guess, and the chambers, and certainly Teresa can chime in as well. But yeah, we appreciate the partnership and the information provided today for those on the call. A couple just housekeeping things at the end here. There will be a recording of today's webinar, which will be available on the Fairfield County Economic Development, the Lancaster Fairfield County Chamber of Commerce, and the Pickerington Area Chamber websites, or in our newsletters. So look for information there. The presentation PowerPoint will be sent to all attendees. If you didn't register, just email one of our, either one of the chambers or Rick, and we can get that to you. And of course, the MEP at Columbus State has the cybersecurity audit grant for manufacturers, which you just mentioned, Jeff. So those were just things to wrap up. And yeah, thanks again to all.
And I'll close up by saying, Travis, Teresa, and Rick, who is still there, on behalf of the manufacturing community, and really I think the business community in general, thank you for everything you're doing to support the region. Your efforts are definitely noticed and appreciated. So thank you, thank you, thank you. And everyone on the call, thanks for being here and for giving us 40-some minutes of your time to talk about this important topic.
Hey,
great day.
Jeff.
Yeah.
Before we sign out, there were a couple of questions in the chat. I don't know if you guys saw those.
Oh, fantastic. No, we didn't.
So there was one that asked, can we set up a time with you to look over our business? And that was from Brian Smith, and I'm sure the answer to that is yes. And then obviously the contact information, Brian, is on here for you, so definitely reach out. And then there's one there from the Fairfield Soil and Water, that how can you protect yourself from a ransomware attack that is dormant for a period of time and makes it up onto your backup, and when you restore your system from the backup, the ransomware is still there and active?
That's a great question.
That is a great question, and the thing that scares me the most. I did answer this in the chat, but I'll go ahead and talk about it if you don't mind, just briefly. Most ransomware is pretty instant. You click the bad link and you're infected, your stuff gets encrypted, and they're not really great at the long game if they can get money now. So this is not a super common thing that can happen. But if it's something that we suspected, we would be very careful on restoring, making sure that that infected device that we're trying to bring back to life has not been infected in the backups before we release it back onto the network.
Yeah, thank you. To your point, I think there was another question too, just to make sure that we get these from Martin Barker. He's not a manufacturer. What are his options for talking with someone about these issues?
Well, Martin, I think Rob, that might be a great outreach attempt for Maplewood. Why the MEP works specifically with manufacturers. I think Rob and Kate have the ability to work with just about anyone that uses IT services. So anyone.
Yep.
Rob, do you want to take that?
Yeah, no, just so our contact information is there. You can reach out to Kate or myself directly, and we'll get back to you as soon as we can, and be happy to talk over these issues with you for sure. So just send us an email or give us a call, and we'll be happy to help.
Thank you, guys. I didn't want to miss those questions, and make sure we got everybody covered.
We appreciate that, Teresa. That's definitely. And folks, as you hang up, if you're like me, you'll think about, oh, these 3 questions I should have asked. Our contact information is there. Please don't hesitate to reach out. If you're a non-manufacturer, still give us a call. We'll direct you to the right direction. We're still here to help the region. Our funding just helps us to help manufacturers. So we want to get you to the right folks and the right resources available.